Morning, Bix.
Hello, good looking. How are you?
Good, brother. How you doing?
I'm awesome. Hang on 1 second.
Yeah, man. Take your time.
Shit, so much going on. It's crazy. I love it.
It's really insanity, Bix. I mean, since I was on your show February a year ago, it's been 14 months of 7-day a week, 18-hour a day business. God bless you. And you started it all. So I know you're experiencing the same thing.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, for me, it's kind of like vindication time on silver, on cryptos, it's like everybody's talking about manipulation now. I love it.
It's unreal. Let me ask you a question, because you come up with such great information. What's your go-to source? If you had one place you had to go to for info, what's your go-to source?
You're not gonna believe it. It's intuition. It just
I do believe it.
God, I have no idea. Like when I found the Road to Ruta stuff, the documents at the Fed, I was there at the Federal Reserve Bank of Boston website on January 1st, 2007, the very day they posted it. I was in that.
Just by luck.
Well, I think it's guidance. Truthfully, I think it's guidance.
Some people, I believe that,
Yeah.
You know something, Bix? I believe that. I believe that very, very much. And it's just like the old saying, what is luck when opportunity meets preparation? Well, I think we all have that intuition. It's just that most of us don't listen to it. Most of us don't trust it, and you do, and that's why.
I didn't know what it was back then. I do now. Now I search for it, and it's funny because when you search for it, that's when it's not there. It's kind of it comes to you when you least expect it, but once you recognize that there is something else guiding us, it makes life a hell of a lot easier.
I believe that to my core. And so what's the difference between that and Jenny Moonstone? What is the difference?
He taps it. I mean, let's take a look at Jenny, what she did lately. Like, what was it? 3 weeks ago, she was saying, because I kept saying, oh, come on, everybody wants to know about silver. When's silver going to happen? She's like, why are you even worrying about it? It's April. We're in this battle. The game is won. It's just they're deciding, who's going to go to jail, how disruptive they want it to be, and all this stuff. She's like, April. And here we are coming up to April. But the biggest thing she said to me that stuck out was, she said, they're going to try to rig the game the old way using the old tools, but the old tools are broken. She kept saying that. And I'm like, to me, it rang true. I was trying to analyze it and explain it to everybody. Hey, there's something wrong with the way these guys used to rig the market. Being on the COMEX, using the Perth Mint is a great example. I mean, John Adams came out. Are you familiar with this guy, John Adams?
Yeah, COMEX? For sure. Yeah, I've done an interview with him.
Oh, great. Yeah, he came out and he's like talking about the Perth Mint pooled accounts and all that. And I'm like, boy, this sure rings a bell from back in 2005, 2006 when Ted Butler was talking about it. And I jumped on it, and I was
Jason Hamel, yeah.
I was actually
knock it off.
I was actually emailing the Perth Mint, and they were responding to my articles saying, no, Bix is wrong. The unallocated metal is our inventory in our warehouse, but at the same time they're saying they're out of inventory and can't make any more silver. At that time, I'm like, what don't you see? And they actually responded to me, and they also said that they didn't trade in any derivatives at all. When on their own website, the Gold Core website, they said, we are specialists in derivatives.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, you guys are just lying blatantly. And when John Adams came out and said, hey, I've got customers saying that they're not going to get delivery of their 1,000-ounce bars in an allocated account or unallocated or pool, I'm not sure what it was. I'm like, wow, that's a big deal. And then they changed their perspectives, just like SLV. These are the old tools breaking down, just like Jenny said.
Yeah, I have a lot of people calling and validating this. I mean, a lot of people are emailing me saying the exact same thing. Most of it centering around the inability to fabricate unallocated accounts. And so they call and say, we want to fabricate and take possession. They say 6, 8 months. And
Look,
I get lots of people sending me this.
yeah, I see that, but at the same time, it's not a fabrication issue. And here's why I think that. One, the fact that John had customers who were getting rejected on their taking delivery of 1,000-ounce bars. That's not a fabrication issue.
Oh, I agree. It's not. That's just what they're telling people. Because
Right.
if it's there, it shouldn't take 8 months to fabricate your shit.
It's already fabricated. I mean,
Right.
if you're taking delivery of 1,000-ounce bars and they're storing 1,000-ounce bars, that's just opening the vault and giving the person who verified it their 1,000-ounce bar.
Hmm.
So, but one of the things that I wanted to talk to you about and also get a better understanding of, the Perth Mint has just in the last week has changed their prospectus or their rules of engagement again. Um, they have a pooled. They have three types of silver derivative products that you can invest in. One is the unallocated. One is the allocated, which theoretically shouldn't be a question. And the other is the pooled allocated. Now, pooled allocated, that's what they changed. They have wait a minute, 7 million ounces of 1,000-ounce bars in their warehouse that is allocated to this pooled situation. They came out and changed the prospectus, said, well, if you want to take delivery of your pooled metal, you have to change it into allocated metal, which tells me there's a disconnect between the pooled allocation and the allocated, as in you got your bars.
I don't understand that at all. That makes no sense.
I know, but what it does make sense in the world that there's a lack and a shortage of 1,000-ounce bars. This was a depository of 1,000-ounce bars, and they had them all listed. They're still listed on the Perth Mint website of about 7 million 1,000-ounce bars. They have all the serial numbers and everything, but they were in a pooled allocated account. What I believe, because John said his customers got a call back the next day after the Mint said no, it's going to take months to get it. The next day they said, oh yeah, we have it. You can have it. You can have your 1,000-ounce bars. I think what happened is that they had to dip into this unallocated or allocated pool of 1,000-ounce bars, which was bars that were sitting there at the Perth Mint. What it tells me is the world is out of 1,000-ounce bars, except for what they can pry free.
Steel.
And I think, yeah. So there's 7 million ounces. Basically, they're down to their last 7 million ounces of 1,000-ounce bars that are available. That's what it tells me.
Yeah, it sure makes sense that way. I mean, the semantics is crazy. So, I mean, basically, they must charge more for the pooled allocated because the pooled unallocated is free. They must charge something for the pool allocated, but it makes zero sense why they would make a distinction between the two. What does that say for their pooled unallocated? And almost everyone I've ever met owns the pooled unallocated.
Yeah,
So,
because
in all the years I've done this.
Yeah, there's no storage charges. And actually, I mean, that was part of my fight way back when. And they admitted, hey, the pooled unallocated is just our working inventory. Instead of the bankers financing it, we're having all you schmoes out there finance it. But my question was, what happens when you run out of inventory, which you do all the time? Those are naked obligations that the Perth Mint has.
It's just like any Ponzi scheme. You don't think everyone's going to call it all in at once, and that's why they're able to do it. Until now, when everyone's calling it in.
Yeah, and I think that, but I think for ending the silver manipulation, which has been my goal for almost 2 decades now. The key is people understanding that, one, it is manipulated. We have more and more people saying, oh my God, Bix, can you believe that they slammed the price down below $25? And I'm like, yes, I can. And is it legal? Hell no. Will the CFTC do anything? We don't even have to go down this conspiracy route for the CFTC to be shown to be the fraud that they are, because Ted Butler has been proving it every single day for 40 years. He's been doing this for 40 years. And every single day using the CFTC's own data from the CME group, the massive concentration of silver shorts without any justification any justification is what Ted Butler has proven time and time again. That's the only thing you need to prove that the price is being manipulated, a concentrated short position. And it's for banksters, criminal banksters. Now they swap out which banks are going to do it. You know, it was Scotiabank for a while. It was JP Morgan for a while. It's been Deutsche Bank, obviously. Who knows what happened to them? But so it's a kind of it's a hot potato is what I like to call it. Bear Stearns had it. They got eaten up. AIG had it. They got eaten up. Drexel Burnham had it. They got eaten up. JP Morgan had it. They got almost eaten up with RICO charges. And that's the other thing. A bank that gets charged with RICO charges is conspiracy to commit crimes.
Right.
And yet they paid a $982 billion fine, and yet they're still allowed to be the custodian of BlackRock's SLV inventory, the largest inventory on the planet. They're still allowed to be the largest trader in silver by far. You look at the deliveries. Now it's not JP Morgan for the house account, it's JP Morgan customer accounts that are dominating all deliveries.
It's a complete mystery. But I'll tell you, you're changing the world, Bix. You are. People like you are awakening the world, and we can talk about just the amount of demand that's out there, and it's all emanating from people like you who are awakening the public. You, more than anyone I've ever known in my life, are changing people's lives for the better. I mean, you did mine, and I know a lot of people, they just say, God bless Bix. And, you know, the Theta thing has just been incredible. I wished I would have listened to you at 5 cents instead of at $2, but you know, so what? It's still been a life-changing experience. And I think the same thing will be said for silver. And I think it's a mystery to me how they've been able to keep the ball up in the air as long as they have, because I'll tell you something, the demand is so far off the charts. It is so far disconnected from the price. It's remarkable just how much demand there is, how difficult it is to continue to get product. It's a full-time job, 24/7, and I could sell all of it. I mean, we're rotating. We've done 100 million in sales in 3 months, Bix, not even 3 months. So it's crazy. That's a year's worth of business.
And I mean, I think the masses got a hint of it when the whole Wall Street Bets crowd, the Reddit crowd got in, or at least it wasn't them that got in. It was discussed a little bit, which brought it to their attention, and which is good. And the more people that, I mean, that was the whole Reddit thing was about uncovering problems in our monetary system, uncovering problems that were prevalent at the broker dealer level, at the DTCC level, where they actually are supposed to be monitoring and policing at the SEC. There's no reason that GameStop should have had 150% of their float shorted. That's pure fraud. Right. It's illegal. And the GameStop situation, the Reddit guys, Wall Street Bets, bravo on them for, number one, discovering the fraud that is at the DTCC and the SEC and all the exchanges, including the NYMEX, the New York Stock Exchange. It's pure fraud. And it's an insane situation that they exploited. And then they had to get all their buddies to shut it down, and then get the politicians to try to say that it's the fault of the little guy, that these guys were offsides. They were caught being offsides, and then they were let go from their position for the most part. Now, silver, these banksters are offsides. Jeff Curry saying that the shorts are the ETFs was either a lie, which is illegal, being an authorized participant of SLV. He's not allowed to lie about the current situation of SLV, or BlackRock is about to be brought up on fraud charges, because they state very clearly in their prospectus that none of this silver that you as a shareholder own as part of the shareholder group, none of the silver is hedged in any way. So Jeff Curry, number one, why isn't there an investigation into what Jeff Curry said, being an authorized participant? Goldman Sachs is an authorized participant in SLV. And Jeff Curry came on nationwide news show, a very popular news show, and lied to everybody. And then it just happened that Goldman Sachs had the largest deliveries of silver last month, which is his company.
And now I heard you say that 90 million ounces were backdoored out of SLV. Like, for example, where do you find that information?
If you go to SLV, the iShares SLV website, on the top right, there's an Excel spreadsheet of all the silver that's deposited or withdrawn every day.
Okay.
So, I mean, the problem is, because so many of us have been yelling and screaming for so long, they've had to become a little more transparent than they want to be. They're not fully transparent. I mean, the Perth Mint will never tell you that they're backdooring 7 million ounces of their 1,000-ounce bars from the allocated pooled account, but we can see it from the data. I'm keeping a close eye on that, on the Perth Mint 1,000-ounce bar list that they put for their, they posted. They had to post it because we yelled and screamed about it. So that's the key. The key is not that the silver price is going to $20 or $30 or $40 or wherever it ends up. That's a fraudulent price. The key is opening people's minds to the manipulation, how it's done, who's involved, who covers it up at the CFTC. The SEC is involved as well because of SLV. That's under the SEC's jurisdiction because it's an ETF. So you got the SEC and the CFTC at some time, you know, it's, who's the guy in there now? The new SEC head.
I have no idea. I don't pay attention to that shit.
But I think it's important because Gary, is it Gary Gensler? Yeah, it's
Wasn't
Gary Gensler.
he didn't he used to be a CFTC guy?
Yeah, now he's the head of the SEC.
Oh, great.
So he was the head of the CFTC when JP Morgan was rigging the silver market and there was all those investigations. You know, supposedly he tried to stop it and was told to stand down by the, you know, the powers that be. And now he's the head of the SEC, which is also in his preview. He's in charge of SLV now. So cryptos. I mean, the amount of fraud that has happened in the past needs to be exposed. When a crime is committed, it should be exposed. If you find out who did it, it should be exposed, and the people who got harmed should be made whole. In JP Morgan's case, who got made whole by the $980 million? Where is that $980 million?
Nobody.
You being one of the largest silver distributors out there, retail distributor guys, you got screwed by all the manipulation. How much of that $980 million is Miles Franklin going to get? But
That
why
much.
and where is it?
Good question. Good question. I don't know. How do you access it?
And did they even pay it?
Probably not. No.
So that's
And
the
the fact
that's
that they
the
made
world
$1
we live
billion
in.
too. They made $1 billion in 2020 on their metals desk. Got fined 980, made $1 billion, so they still walked away with $20 million profit.
But that was for 10 years worth of rigging was their fine. So if you take that, and they didn't have to pay it till that's you know, it's future money. They've made tens of billions of dollars off the criminal manipulation of gold and silver.
It's going to end one of these days, Bix, and your face is going to go on Mount Rushmore as someone who's changed everyone's life in this country. A lot of people. I mean, God bless you. I hope you sleep well at night, because I talk to people every day and they love you universally, absolutely love you. Like, you're like a rock star to these people. I also get a lot of people say this to me. Yeah, I just recently have been turned on to Bix Weir. I get that all the time. Like, people who are finding you just recently. I think your numbers must be exploding. Are your subscription numbers growing?
Yeah, well, yeah, but at the same time, I mean, there's a lot of YouTube stuff I can't say now that I used to be able to say when I just did the blog when I was, you know, in the early 2000s all the way
People
to
don't read anymore.
well, I know exactly. And then I got on social media a couple of years ago, social media, like literally like 3 years ago, and everything blew up. And I'm like, okay, people don't read, but at the same time, I've even had to go back into my archives. There's a search button at roadtorida.com, and I did a search for Perth Mint, and I found all the old information because they shut down their unallocated program all the way up until 2016 is when they kind of revamped it and started it up again to continue the same old rig. It's like Jenny Moonstone said, they're going to try the same old thing, but it's not going to work this time. So we are getting into that point of time. I know in February you were slammed. You were slammed, and it had to do with the attention, everybody buying retail metal. We're getting to May is a delivery month, and mid-April is when the banks have to scramble to shut down their shorts and do rollovers if they can. There is going to be a gigantic shortage of retail metal once again come mid to end of April, and I don't know if it'll be swept away or washed away like it was back in January. I think this time there's so many more people who are aware of it, who are saying, oh my God, all we have to do is buy physical metal and we can get rid of the manipulators. I think ultimately, yeah, but they're going to rig it until the last day. So as a purchaser of metal, when do you want to buy your metal? When there's $10, $20 premiums and the price is skyrocketing, or when it's right before that happens in the lull? And as busy as you are, I think we're in the lull right now before the chaos of mid-April to May, June, July.
Well, I've just hired a couple new brokers in anticipation, and I don't doubt a damn word you say, brother. You're as smart and intuitive as anyone I've ever met in my life. And I know I say it, but I mean it. I love you like a brother, dude. Paying you the money that you've earned is one of the greatest joys of my life. I love to see those checks going out to you, and I hope it all goes into Theta and making your family rich for generations. I do. I love you, Bix. Honestly, there's not a thing I wouldn't do for you or your family. Nothing.
Well,
and I want you to know that.
I do. I know, and you say it every time, and I get embarrassed. But thank you, and I hear it from my subscribers all the time, and it's great. There were times when I was the dog, and it's much better to it's much better to be the shiny pony than the dog. But at the same time, we are hitting a point where I recommend you guys all the time. Number one, I say go to your local guy and get a relationship going with your local dealers. That's important for reselling and things like that. It's just much easier to walk down to your local guy and say, okay, you remember those Silver Eagles you sold me for $30? Here they are now. We're at $500 silver. I want to get myself a car. Here's a little stack of them. That type of thing is going to happen. If you don't have a local guy or you don't trust your local guy, a lot of these guys are not trustworthy. Call or send Andy an email, andy@milesfranklin.com, Andy, ANDY @milesfranklin.com. That's the way he's been doing business for a long time. He's not going to screw you over. Road to Ruta customers are always singing your praises and saying, oh my God, thank God for Andy. So
well,
I'm throwing that right back at you.
I know you do, and I love you for that.
I know we've put you through hell this last year. It's a good hell, but good hell. You are doing something at Miles Franklin that is literally securing the future for a hell of a lot of people by getting physical metal into their own possession.
Well, where do we stand as far
as backlogs, or what kind of inventory we're looking at right now, and what's your projection over the next couple of weeks?
So I have lots of inventory a bunch of it came in yesterday, and I'll have a whole bunch more coming in tomorrow. It's a constant job for us, Bix. We're buying and selling all day long, every day. But between kangaroos from Australia, Britannias from the United Kingdom, and Krugerrands, I will have about 175,000 ounces in my warehouse by next Monday. A good amount of it is already in. Eagles and Maple Leafs are, junk silver. I have some. Rounds are tough, but in general, we have as good a supply or better than anyone in the country. And it's on continual rotational basis where, we had 75,000 backdate Silver Eagles that I pried out of an estate sale that were swept up in less than just a few days. So supply is decent, we'll have a whole lot more in next Monday. We have enough in right now to place live orders. Some of it's back ordered by a few days. Um, in general, everything I'm selling is no more than 7 to 10 days out. And all of it, before I sell it, has already cleared customs and is in the US. There are two depository distributors I work with on the East Coast, one in Boston, one in New York. When the stuff gets sent into them, they take it in, they break it out, put it on a truck and send it across the country to my depository in Fargo, where then we have to get it, unpack it, and then pack it up based upon the orders. All of that takes a week or so. But when I say I have the stuff, it's already cleared customs and is in the US. We've paid for it. Now it's just got to get on a truck and get across the country. So there is no, well, we're waiting for it to come and the mint closed down like happened last year. That won't happen because it's already here.
And as far as I know a lot of my customers have already set up account with you, and what's the process of working with you? Is it
Same
based
way
on
that you do it. The only difference is uh, if they have an account, if they've done ACH, which is e-check, we just process it, boom, done. They would say, hey, I want another 1,000 maples, put it on my e-check, done. Or they send a wire. But once the account is set up, it's as simple as just calling or texting or emailing saying lock it in and it's done. So we try to make it real easy. We're building a new website that will have the ability, on a limited ability anyway, to place orders. Get this. This is a crazy statistics. I know you're probably in a hurry, so I'll be quick.
No, we're good.
So 40% of our order volume, thousands of orders, thousands, 40% were under $5,000. That only represented 3.7% of our profit. 40% of the volume, 3.7% of the profit. So we're building a website that will allow orders of $5,000 or less to be placed, and a little bit easier on price discovery. Bigger orders, they'll have to call us, but it's craziness right now. So we're talking to people all day long, and we have no order minimum. And I treat your people like they're my family. I talk to most of them myself, or a lot of them anyway. But if I ever, if anyone ever says anything like they can't get a hold of me or anything, send me that email. I'll reply to them personally. Our biggest challenge has been just getting in touch with people because we have so much volume. We're like Caleb and Brown. I understand what they're going through. There's this one guy there named Bisher who's been amazing. And every time I refer someone, I copy him, and they say to me, I've been trying to get a hold of him. I copy Bisher and he gets right back to him like that. That dude's amazing. I'd hire him to work for me in 10 seconds. But yeah, I mean, products coming in, it's a continual challenge, but we'll keep fighting the fight, Bix. I'm not gonna look. I've been at this as long as you, and I know what it's like to have a market like this right now. I would have only begged for this in years past. I'm gonna do it till I drop. But I'm working 18 hours a day, 7 days a week. I'm not joking. Since February
Good.
of
Hey,
last year.
so I guess overall I want my take, and I think your take is you're better off with the expected chaos we see for the May deliveries of silver starting probably mid to late April. You're better off getting your orders in now than later. You don't want to be in the middle of the chaos. You don't want to be paying gigantic premiums for everything. You want to be, that's the time you want to be sitting on your lawn chair watching the action go down with
Right.
metal in your own possession. So to get in touch with Andy, send him an email, Andy, ANDY at milesfranklin.com. And he will either get back to you or have one of his brokers get back to you, and he's going to take care of you. Any problems with Andy, you send me an email, and we can, everybody's got a problem with everything once in a while, and we can always work things out and figure out what's going on. And truthfully, almost nothing goes through Andy ever comes back to me. Once in a while, someone will say, well, I wanted it a week ago. And he's like, well, I told you 3 weeks, here's the email. And, but yeah, I get it when people are dealing with their life savings and their fortune. But I wouldn't have any other person to be helping me out than Andy and his team over there at Miles Franklin. So definitely now is the time to get your metal. Any words of wisdom to the Road to Ruta fans right now?
Trust your gut. And I think that that's the most important thing. That price is a massive tool of misdirection. They use price to misdirect the public. It's very obvious to see. They've been doing it for a very long time, including rhetoric. Price and rhetoric are misdirecting the public. These are subsidies. The pullbacks that we are seeing are so counterintuitive to the demand. Every bit as much as the stock market is non-reflective of the eviscerated economy beneath it. Same thing is true in reverse here. The demand from the very top, from the Perth Mint and the COMEX market on down to the street, is far outpacing supply, and price is disconnected from that because they're trying, I think, to throw all of us off the trail. They're concerned more than ever because the rhetoric is moving in our favor. People are waking up, as you mentioned, to the manipulation, talking about it, legitimizing it. You don't have to walk into a room with a tinfoil hat on to have that discussion. Instead, you can be wearing a ball cap like you and come across as smart as a whip. And I think that has to be understood. As Chris Powell, your friend and mine, is so fond of saying, there are no free markets anymore, just manipulation. So how do you win? You get on the right side of it and do what they're doing. The only way you can successfully manipulate a market, Bix, is to push it in the direction that it's going. And the more of us pushing this market in the direction it should be going will overwhelm the ability of the big manipulators to manipulate it. And one last piece, and that is simply this: to take on a bullion bank or the bullion banks and the COMEX is vastly different than taking on a hedge fund. And I think we can all see that. But if we wipe the cupboards clean of all the available supply in the industry, as we're seeing globally, and you're seeing more talks of this happening, more proof of this happening, evidence of this happening around the world than we are in the US. I get emails all day long from people all throughout Europe and Australia and New Zealand, and saying the same thing. I can't find anything. I can't find silver anywhere. The UK, Scotland, everywhere. Can't find it. They want to buy from us. So the only thing is Europe has a VAT on importation of silver, and it's expensive to ship it. So these people are literally begging to buy silver across the globe. It's going to happen here too. People are going to wake up one day and realize that they shouldn't have taken for granted just how easy it is in the United States to get silver until it's gone, until you can't get it. So I say that to you with all due sincerity and objectivity. The most difficult part of owning a precious metals company right now, above all else, forget about the hard work. That's a blessing. It's finding product to sell. And wouldn't it be ironic at the peak of demand after 31 years of hanging on tight with the strong grip, they just can't get any product? I hope to God that doesn't happen. But I'll tell you something, it's not easy. It really, truly is not easy. And one last thing, and I'll let you run. When we talk about demand, and I often use this statistic that Rick Rule talked to me about a long time ago. In 1980, with $800 gold and $800 Dow, those last time they crossed at 1-to-1, the Dow and gold, people just wanted silver dollars and gold coins back then. They didn't want Dow stocks. If we go all the way forward 40 years to December or January rather of 2020, before COVID accentuated, people understood what it was 0.5% allocation to physical precious metals from the guy on the street all the way to the Harvard Endowment Fund and everything in between. 0.5%. The mean, or the average for the past 40 years, has been 2.5%. And I would argue, largely because of people like you and Chris Marcus and the Wall Street Reddit group and all of the wonderful people out there, David Morgan, and on and on and on. I don't want to miss anyone, but the people who have fought this battle for a long time, like you have, people are waking up. And if we just do nothing other than regress to the mean, to the average of 2.5%, that's a 5-fold increase in demand. And we are regressing to the mean. But what happens if we get 10% or 15%, where everyone who has money in traditional investments just puts 10 or 15% of it into silver or gold, and both? You're talking from 0.5% to 10%. You're talking a 20-fold increase in demand in an industry that can't handle it. We're heading in that direction. And that's why you're seeing this type of problem where for 40 years, the demand has been going in the other direction. So recency bias would dictate the industry isn't prepared to handle this kind of demand. What happens if it pops and gets to 10%? you will wish that you listened to Bix a long time ago and bought, because that will define the industry. It will define the marketplace. If it's this hard to get it now, when less than 2% allocation across the whole US financial matrix is in precious metals, what happens when it's 5 or 10 or even 8, where it was in 1980? It's game over. There'll be nothing left for anybody. So just wanted to mention that and say thank you for trusting me with your listeners. I take it as serious as a heart attack. I will always treat them as family, and you as a brother. So for what it's worth, Bix, thank you. And if you ever need me to come back on, I'm just a phone call away.
Awesome. That's awesome. One thing, final note that I always forget to say to the very end. Now is a great time to swap gold for silver, and Andy will do that for you. They do swaps as well. The gold silver ratio from the Road to Ruta analysis should, at a minimum, it's going to sound crazy, at a minimum should be 1-to-1. There's 6 billion ounces above ground both. And then you can ask yourself, what's more important, gold or silver? Silver that's used in almost every kind of electronic thing for our future. So if you have any gold, gold's great because they're destroying the dollar. If you have gold, you can get literally over 50, over 60. I don't know how many, depends what kind of gold you have and what you're swapping for, but a significant amount of silver for your gold. And when the silver manipulation ends and gold manipulation ends, we are going to see a really fast snapback closer to, the conservative people say 8-to-1. I'm saying 1-to-1. It could be even, 1-to-10, because silver's so much more important than gold. So just keep that in mind. I know you gold bugs love your gold, but at the same time, with silver, you get this exact same monetary importance, but you can get that industrial demand. And how much do companies like Tesla have to spend on silver when it's such a vital, important part of what they're manufacturing? That's why Elon hasn't sent out any tweets about silver. He's trying to get as much as he can too. And if he was smart, which I think he's pretty smart, he's going to load up on futures and everything before he says anything about, hey, get your hands on some silver while you can. So that's just a heads up.
Oh, I believe that. And I'd like just 2 or 3 comments on that, and I'll let you run. Number one, in an interview I did with Keith Neumeyer, he said what's coming out of the ground is 8-to-1. We've talked about that on our last show. 8-to-1. So is 1-to-1 really that outlandish? No, it's not. And when we talk about demand, we have all of the things that we've talked about, from the Green New Deal to batteries like with Tesla and electronics with Samsung and Panasonic and Apple and all that stuff. One piece that I want people to keep firmly in mind is the new Chinese Belt Road and Rail Initiative. It's the largest infrastructure project in human history. It's connecting 65% of human population, and that's not just with tunnels and maritime channels and bridges and roads and railways. It's digitally. So you're connecting 45% of global GDP and 65% of human population digitally. Also, the need for silver is extraordinary. And one last piece to that I'd like people to keep in mind as it relates to the dollar, because remember, all of these things boil back to the dollar. And as the dollar goes, so too does the price of the metals that we're talking about. All of these contracts that are being settled in Asia and Africa are not being settled with dollars. They are being settled with Chinese digital yuan. So you have 65% of the world that is slowly being indoctrinated into another currency, a digital currency, one that will usurp and take demand away from the dollar. Ultimately, that doesn't bode very well for the dollar. And that is why I believe making these moves into things like theta and cryptocurrencies and precious metals, while the dollar still has value, is really the key here, because the dollar is this close from losing its singular world reserve status. When 65% of the world is now being indoctrinated into a new system, slowly, the way the Chinese prefer it, we'll wake up one day and say, my God, what happened? Why is the dollar now sitting on the floor and everything's so expensive, and I can't even get silver at any price? And that's a good reason why. It's the beginning of the end for the US dollar. Maybe not the end of the end, but the beginning of it anyway. When you have over 2/3 of the world now using a new currency to settle contracts, it's something to keep an eye on as well. So all the things that you're doing make a great deal of sense to me, Bix, even if they don't make sense at the moment to the people when you're hearing it. I will tell you that everything you are saying makes deep sense to me, and it's many layers deep, and that's a big one as far as I'm concerned. Maybe the biggest for me in terms of what the uses silver has in building an infrastructure of that size. It's extraordinary. So if that doesn't add fuel already to a 5 alarm fire over the next year or two, I don't know what will.
Very well put. And I did hear Keith say that, it's coming out of the ground 8 to 1. I would only add to that was it 60, about 60, 70% of that, of the silver is going into industrial
Byproduct.
use. So
And
monetary metal coming out of the ground is 1 to 1, which is shocking. We could just go on and on and on.
if it's 60 to 70% now, it's going to be 80 or 90% as time goes on. So
Yeah.
you're right. I agree. God bless you, Bix. You're doing amazing work, and I'm honored to be part of it, what little part I have. So I hope you stay well. And when you're caravanning around the U.S. this summer, you better come visit me. And I look very forward to seeing you and Amy and spending a couple nights with you and playing music
Absolutely.
and having beers and talking about the world would be really amazing.
Hey, we're gonna get you out on the road with us for, you can take a couple weeks with your family and you go in
I'm
the.
on.
It's feeling now like a kind of a Grateful Dead type of show where people just go from city to city and sell their wares and sell their silver and their cryptos and weave baskets and make food. It's gonna be great. I can't
Well,
wait.
you may not see it in my appearance, but deep down in my soul, I'm a Deadhead and brought my son to his first Grateful Dead concert. It was Dead and Company 2 years ago. And so Grateful Dead has a special place in my heart, as do you. I'll let you run, but you stay well and let's talk again real soon.
All right, Andy. Thanks for coming on.
Take it easy, Bex.